All right, the Mosh theme song. I've been to Romamu, I've been to BJ. I searched all over for a place to pray. I found the mosh pit, and I knew this was it. I am a MOShnik, and I'm here to stay. And I'm turning gray. Actually, I'm really turning white. I found community that is in tune with me. Oh, singing and dancing in the synagogue. Some contemplation mixed with elation. I am a MOShnik, and I'm here to stay. And I'm turning gray. Okay, all MOShniks, sing along. A chance to meet you, a chance to greet you, a time to deepen what it means to belong. So let's have some fun tonight and spread some joy and light. I am a MOShnik, and I'm here to stay. And I'm turning gray. Let's turn it over to the harmonica of Bob Hoffman. Actually, it's the harmonica of someone who was playing with Neil Young, but don't tell Neil we're using his music. Well, actually tell him, and maybe we'll gain some notoriety, and they'll sue us, and then we'll be famous. Okay, enough of that. Enough seriousness aside. Welcome everybody on this Wednesday. What's today? It is Wednesday night. A week from now it will be Shavuot, and so we won't be meeting next Wednesday night, but we will be meeting next Tuesday night for Leil Tikkun Shavuot and Moshe's second annual evening of storytelling, followed by me doing some teaching on the book of Ruth, and also next Wednesday morning for Shavuot service, which includes Yizkor and a dramatic reading of the book of Ruth. Welcome everyone to this very special evening that is the second of 4 evenings that are dedicated to the theme of aging and saging. Our first night last week, we had a tremendously fun and interesting session with Simcha Raphael. Anytime getting together with Simcha is fun, but for it to be rewarding as well, whoa, that is a double machaya. In 2 weeks' time, we're going to be led by Oren and Lucinda. And there's Oren just popping right in there, is waving to everybody. And then 3 weeks from tonight, Reb Nadia Gross is going to be the last of the 4 sessions on aging and saging. These 4 sessions are made possible through the generosity of Diane Modell. Of course, Haf's widow, Diane, a good friend of Haiti Schleifer, who's just joining us right there, who has yet to show us our video. A little bit of just background to tonight. I read this marvelous article in the Washington Post, which I hope you all read because the link was in the email, by Ann Lamott. And it was about her favorite subject these days, which is of growing old, or perhaps better stated, growing elder, as opposed to growing older. And when I read it, what it meant to me was, we need to read this article, and I need to ask Shulamit and Eliana to lead us in a session based upon the article. Why? Well, so I would get a night off, but more importantly, I know that they are experts in the field and that they would lead us with grace and ease and much, much wisdom this evening. And so without further ado, please welcome Shulamit and Eliana.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Eliana. It's lovely to be here with all of you. I'll just turn it over to you, Eliana. Go for it.
Well, I want to welcome everyone also. It's great to see all your faces, even if they are postage stamp size. I've seen many of you in person just a few weeks ago, and many of you in person very, very recently. I would like to introduce ourselves. So my name is Eliana, otherwise known as Nadine Lee. I'm a spiritual director, a rabbi, and I'm a mentor and teacher in Aging to Saging. And Shulamit, would you like to introduce yourself?
I think most of you know me. And yes, I am a rabbinic pastor. I'm a hospital chaplain. I'm a spiritual director. I'm a storyteller. Oh, and probably a few more things. And pleased to be here with you tonight to host this with Eliana. And as a way of starting, I am going to read a summation of the article we ask you to read, just so that it'll be on the top of your minds, and hopefully it's enough to remind you about most of what she had to say. So she says, I turned 70 today, a young age for an older person to be, but it's the oldest I've ever been by a long shot. One big, juicy, messy, hard, joyful, quiet life. That's what my 70 years have bequeathed me. In my teens, she says, already drinking and drugging, I didn't expect to see 21. Then at 32, I got clean and sober, the miracle of my life from which all other blessings flow. Then after a long search, I met this brilliant, kind writer guy, and 3 days after I started getting Social Security, I married him. Yesterday, I published my 20th book called Somehow. Today, when I woke up, I was 70. My older friends and I know a thing or two about life in general, though I know how little I know. And that's a big relief. I know that my lifelong belief that to be beyond reproach offers shelter and protection is a lie. Shelter is an inside job. Protection is an illusion. I know now that everyone is screwed up to some degree and that everyone screws up. I know that life will assert itself. I know everything is in flux, that all things will turn into other things. So one of us is supposed to ask this question. I guess it's supposed to be me. So in reading Ann Lamott's reflections, which I know you all read before tonight, what struck you? What could you relate to personally? Anybody? Raise your hand. We'll call on you either electronically or like that. Okay, Devorah-esque, please.
Well, I don't feel this old. The number doesn't fit with who I think I am.
The age you are now or the age talked about in the article?
Well, I'm close to her age, so.
Okay.
But this aging thing, it doesn't make sense.
Would you like
Because
to
I
word?
don't feel like I'm 68. I don't feel like that. When I think of the older people I knew who were this age, when I was much younger, they were older and, not as aged in life. And I don't know, many of them were not.
Thank you, Devorah. Somebody else? Anybody?
Miriam, and then Meryl.
Thank you.
I loved the part where she said, talking about younger people having their hair and their bodies and their agility, but not wanting to give up 1 year of her, not wanting to go back even 1 year. I could really relate to that sense of things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Meryl?
Yeah, she talked about even though she was 70, she felt that she was only in her 50s. And that kind of reminded me, looking in the mirror, I see one thing, but inside I feel something else. And I feel I feel like my younger self, except I can't move as quickly and that kind of stuff. But my being is still younger. So that's kind of what hit me. Thanks.
I'm looking for hands. Mary Rita, did I see you raise your hand? Please.
And then Gail.
I was going for the electronic one, but couldn't get there fast enough. I'm 76, and I'm 70. I each morning I'm grateful that I am alive, and I am 70, and I celebrate 76 years of existence. I like thinking of that, and I'm so grateful that that I've had an opportunity to do several aging to saging courses and doing the reflection that goes with that. Because I know I shared with some people, I can't remember like which, like where I shared it, but 2 weeks ago, we went up to celebrate my brother's 80th birthday, and he is having a really hard time being 80. And it made me recognize how grateful I am to be able to say, you know, I'm 76, and to be able to celebrate that and the years that I have, and just looking forward to more years to be able to share what I've learned. I agree with Ann. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back at all, because I like the wisdom that I have recognized so far, and I can't wait to find more. You know, if I hang out with you guys long enough, there'll be lots of wisdom coming up.
Thank you, Mary Rita. That was lovely. And Gail, and then George and Sandy.
Hi, everybody. So I am Gail Rubinski, an old friend of Shulamit's. I don't know anybody here, but I've known Shulamit for many, many years. And I'm happy to be here with you. I will admit that I did not read the article. But from listening and getting a gist, I mean, I skimmed it. But my take on this is that I'm also 76. My husband is 84. And fortunately, I've been well, had ups and downs, but have been well. But I think back to when I was young, even in, you know, as a young girl, even in my 20s, my bubby was always old, always. I mean, you know, and I imagine other people can relate to this. I mean, so I was little, she always had gray hair. She always wore these long dresses with the clunky shoes, always. And I don't see myself that way at all. And I think that our generation is just much more active than my bubby was. You know, we work, we exercise, we're more social, we're not at home in the kitchen with the children. So, you know, I think that has helped our aging process to be, to maintain our health, you know, and being active has certainly helped. So I'm just comparing it to years ago. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for sharing. That was lovely. George and Sandy, I think you were next.
Hi. When I think about, you know, this age, I'll be 69 in July, but I think about, you know, the downside, I won't have as long as the younger people. However, this is really bad to say, but in a way, I made it this far, and like I cheated death, because I've seen a lot of people younger than me that did not make it to this age. So the people that are 30 right now, they might not even make it to this age. Nobody knows, but I've seen enough of it that not everybody, you know, makes it to this age. So in a sense, you know, I don't have as long, but in a sense, I cheated death because I made it to this age. And my grandmothers were both always old. It wasn't just the dress, it's that they never hung out with us and did that kind of, you know, fun stuff. They just sat there, you know, and talked, you know.
Thank you, Sandy. Dee, please.
Well, I really enjoyed the article, and the thing I want to say about, because I turned 70, I should say, I now have 71 years and 5 months of life experience. And turning 70 for me was a very big deal, and I made a very big party for myself. And it was very joyful. And, because the number 70 feels very significant in our tradition. Also, my parents both died when they were in their 60s after many, many years of a lot of debilitating illnesses. And when I turned the age that my mother was when she died, that was at 64 years plus 10 weeks, I made a ritual because I felt like having achieved that milestone, anything after that might be like gravy. And so now I've had 7 more years since then, and who knows how long any of us has, but like a lot of other people have already said, I feel like I'm trying to live fully in the time that I'm here and to keep giving back in the way of tikkun olam that feels, whatever feels purposeful for me. And sometimes I feel very engaged, and sometimes I'm kind of wandering around saying, oh, what am I supposed to be doing now? I've been retired for 5 years. So somebody told me the word recently, rewirement, which I really like instead of retirement. So I've been rewiring myself for the last 5 years. DeBarty.
Shamati. So I'm going to ask Judy and Kit to have something to say. And then if the next 3 people would be kind enough to wait a few minutes, we'll do a little more presentating and then we'll come back and get your opinions. Would that be okay? Thank you. Go for it, Judy.
So I debated about, should I attend tonight? Because the milestone birthday that I'll be looking at in a year, a little over a year, is 60. And I thought, okay, people are holding their heads. The reason, so other than Ann Lamott being a very, compelling writer, being part of this, well, first of all, my mother died at age 61 in an accident. And so that informs my approach to living each day. But also I really wanted to come because this community, being part of this community, is such a valuable lesson in, I don't know, probably what 2/3 of you on the screen changed your career in your 50s or later. And or you're in school now to embrace a new avocation, and it's so inspiring. And so I value so much being part of this community that is so vibrant and just so much to learn from all of you. DeBarty.
Oh, thank you, Judy. What a lovely thing to say. We're glad you decided to come. Okay, Kit, your turn.
Well, for me, it's, I again think the age I'm going to become is, seems, I think of it sort of as old. But I had a situation where my grandniece was staying with me, and I said something to her about something, and she said to me, she looked at me and she goes, well, Aunt Kit, that's probably because you are so old. And I'm taken aback. I mean, she didn't just say old. She said so old. And then I thought, well, she's 9. I am so old. To her that makes perfect sense. So when I sometimes when I'm feeling, about age or whatever, and I remember to, it's especially helpful if I'm in a mirror, near a mirror. I look in the mirror and I go, well, Kit, that's because you are so old. And it just
Well,
cracks me up.
we are glad you're with us, even if you're very old.
So old. I'm so old.
I'm going to turn this over to Eliana now.
Well, thank you very much. My gosh, I think maybe we could go on all night and not hear a word more from Shulamit or me. But in thinking about Ann Lamott's reflections on being 70, I can relate. I think back to when I was a child, and I have to agree with Gail. My grandmother was maybe Gail's Bubby's sister. She wore the long dress. She was built kind of like a rectangle. She always, a big rectangle. She always had an apron on, and she needed it because she was always cooking. And I just adored her. She was just full of love and energy. But when I was 12 years old, and my grandmother was 70, she said, I really feel like my body's betrayed me. I said, why? And she said, well, on the inside, I feel like I'm 30. But when I look in the mirror, I see a 70-year-old woman looking back. And it was kind of like Kit with her mirrors and the mirror reflection. And you know what? It wasn't until I passed my 70th birthday that I knew what she was talking about. We're aging, all of us, even Judy at 61. We're all aging. We're all traveling down the road of life in a car with no brakes. And, you know, when you're over the hill, you pick up speed. And I know that for a fact. My memory has lost a few miles per hour off my fastball. My back is a dictator. It dictates when I can bend over, when I can walk without a cane, when I can sit without a heating pad. My ears miss most of what my husband says. As a matter of fact, the most common question in our house is, what did you say? When I'm out with my friends for lunch, conversation almost always includes complaints about some aspect of the digestive system. Sometimes I just wish I could record the conversation of the 20-year-old women sitting at the next table and compare them to ours. I'll bet they never mention the word Metamucil. When I was a child, time crawled at turtle space. I bet that was your experience too. My birthday, it seemed, took ages, maybe a century to come, but the school day lasted forever. Now, like the old adage, life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. And like many of you, I've learned a lot even as my personal roll of toilet paper unravels. In the first part of life, we accumulate. We begin totally dependent. Gradually, we learn a language. We learn to walk and talk. We assert our fledgling independence by saying no. As we grow, we gain an education. We learn to drive. Many of us find a soulmate and then have children and establish a career. We may amass enough money to purchase a home, buy a car, and secure a good retirement. We give our children keys to their new car and send them away for a college education. And then we begin to learn about letting go. Gradually, the time of accumulation turns to a time of letting go. Our children leave. We downsize our home. We may lose our spouse through divorce or death. We retire from our career. We may hope that our retirement savings lasts longer than we do. We may lose our balance. We may lose our ability to walk. We may search for words, and our memories may be fleeting. Then our children may take our keys away. They may even look for a home for mom. At the end, we may even let go of the memory of who we are. And then we lose life itself. How do I feel about all this? Honestly, I'm afraid. Now I'm in my 70s, and I am the oldest I've ever been. When I look in the mirror, I sometimes see my mother looking back at me. You know, it's scary. I don't mind the thought of downsizing my house, but I certainly don't like the thought of downsizing my life Sometimes my memories of yesteryear are more vivid than my memories of yesterday. And I realize that I have to search for words that are playing hide and seek in the deep, dark recesses of my aging brain. And that frightens me. I value my independence. And by the way, my idea of a home for mom is the house that I'm in right now. I'm afraid of getting older. I'm afraid of dying. And I'm afraid of death itself. In a minute, we're going to go through breakthrough rooms. If you wish to participate in a breakthrough room, please leave your video on and unmute. If you wish to not go to a breakthrough room, that's okay, but you really are missing out on the experience of a lifetime. We'll have 2 people in each breakthrough room. If you decide not to go, we'll put you in your own breakthrough room, so you don't have to feel alone. You can be there with yourself. We'll have 2 people in each breakthrough room, and we'll take a total of 6 minutes in our breakthrough room. So that means 3 minutes apiece. This is a time for sharing and listening. It's not a time for problem solving or offering advice. And as always, what you hear in the breakthrough room stays in the breakthrough room. After you have answered the questions or talked about the subject, if you wish, you may ask for a blessing. So, the breakthrough room questions. 1, what are your fears about aging? 2, what are your hopes as you age? The person with the most years of life experience goes first.
Thank you, Eliana. So before we open the rooms, I see a question from George and Sandy.
Hi, since there's 2 of us,
Yeah.
and you said a break room of 2 people, can we count as one, please?
That's exactly what my question for Eliana Shulamit are. The people who are already 2 to a room, I was assuming they would be together for this experience. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we can partner with another person.
Well, he's saying no.
No?
Well, actually not, because you would need 2 computers for that. So stay where you are. Maybe you'll share some things as couples that you were not aware of before, or just to reiterate things. It's never a bad thing. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that I'll be timing the 6 minutes in total. Each person gets 3 minutes. I'm going to try something today, is that you're going to hear my voice in your breakthrough room saying, please change at this time. And then you'll have the next person will have 3 minutes. And I thought that was the most wonderfully kind way that Eliana used to say the person who is oldest goes first by saying, what did you say? It was the person with the most years of life experience goes first. So we are ready to go. You must accept your invitation to the breakthrough room. We'll see you in about 6 minutes.
Can you put the questions in the chat?
I'll put them in. Well, want to read them again? I don't have them. I do have them
What are
here.
your fears? What are your hopes?
There you
Very
go.
simple. What are your fears? What are your hopes? Pick
Okay.
one, pick both.
I just put them in.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Oh.
Do you not have a place for her?
So, Sheila, is your husband there? Is he going to participate? Yeah, okay.
Your own break.
Okay, so I'm going to, I thought I gave you a room. Hold on a second. Hello? Okay, I need to, okay, Rachel didn't go to her room. So I need to make an adjustment here. Uh, Okay, you didn't join, but you should have gotten, I'm going to put you in a room with one other person. So you're going to be three, because I can't, somebody's alone, because somebody turned off
I was
their.
alone.
Yeah, sorry about that. Oh, um, I'm giving people an opportunity to, okay, so let me see who else is alone.
I don't want to miss the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that. I'm going to put you in a different room, which is room 15. Okay, then you'll be in your own room. I'll move to, okay. Go ahead. You should have just gotten an invite. And Roxanne, you and I are going to go to a room. Because I don't know how else to figure this out, but it'd be wonderful. So just give me a second to create another room. And, oh, I won't be able to broadcast from there. So people are just going to have to, hopefully, they won't hear my voice. And Rachel, are you going to participate or no? If not, I'm putting you in the waiting room. I already did.
How will you let people know it's time to switch?
I can't if I go to a room. I'll have to leave.
How about if I go to a room?
Okay, I'll put you and Eliana, you and Roxanne in a room.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to add a room.
And now you'll each have 2 minutes.
Yeah. I
To
don't see
decide.
how to, I don't see how to
You
add
can
another
breathe
room
in
at
and
this
breathe
point.
out, and that'll be that.
Yeah.
Or just
I'm
stay here and talk to us.
Yeah, you know. Okay, so the two of you can witness me and Roxanne.
Okay.
Okay, all right. All right,
Well,
so
you
what do I,
start, Mark. You
what
start.
do we fear and what do we hope?
Mm-hmm.
Am I older than you? I think so.
I think a little bit.
I think so. Okay. What I fear most about aging is losing capacity to do the things that I love to do. If anything happened that I couldn't sing, I mean, that would be the worst thing in the world, because I always say that you can take everything away from me, chas v'chalila, tu, but not my ability to sing. And so I guess my fear and my hope, they go together, in that my hope is that I remain, vigorous. My mother didn't die till she was 98, and she was pretty with it until she was 97, as much with it that my mother could ever be. My hopes are that I set boundaries for myself and not work until the last breath, but rather use my gifts to not only share with my community, but also with my family, and not to forget about them, and that's an important part of my journey too. I tend to be a homebody, and so I hope I grow a little bit less hesitant about traveling, because Renee loves to do that. So give me a second, because I'm going to give everybody 3 minutes. 3 minutes, please. Please change partners at this time. Thank you. 3 minutes, please. Please change partners at this time. Thank you. Okay, I think one of those times it went through.
Ready? Oh, somebody stop calling me. I'm getting this. Okay. So I don't think I'll get to everything, but fears about aging, for me also, to not be able to sing and to have no one to sing with, that would be really, really hard. I'll have to make my children promise way earlier that they will sing with me. They're not big singers. And I thought, I don't know why this came into my mind recently, but it was A fear I have about aging is to never be left alone. It's like, I want to be alone sometimes. I don't want somebody with me all the time, like a helper or this, like I want to be by myself sometimes. And I don't want to get to a point where I and those who love me are so worried about me being alone that I'm never just left alone, you know? So that would be a problem for me. I also try to feel good about the idea of audiobooks if my eyes fail, or reading if my hearing fails. So hoping I have something. I doubt I'm going to be learning Braille. I don't know. Yeah, so those are things. And also I have an image that I will have a dog until the day I die. And I have put in my will that whoever takes whatever dog I have gets $5,000 right off the top of all the money to take care of the dog. And the lawyers had never done a will with that stipulation in it. So they thought that was, they thought, well, maybe we can mention that to other people now, you know? So, and I hope that other people's images, if they are not uplifting, other people's images of aging, if they are sort of giving up and things like that, don't affect my joy and my image of what I can do, and how I can enjoy small things. And I hope I keep feeling that. Yeah. So that's a big hope of mine, that I'm able to keep that for myself. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you for sharing. It was beautiful.
So the breakthrough rooms will close. People will return in 36 seconds.
Okay. And then Eliana, you take over, right? You're
Want me to
next.
sing people back?
Yeah,
Want me to
we do.
Teach us to treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Oh, teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day.
Welcome back from your breakthrough rooms. I hope that you found a treasure within. When I think of my life, I've learned things in the winter of my life. And better late than never, I've learned the power of forgiveness. And I try to invite gratitude to become my daily companion. I try to pay attention to my body when she warns me to act my age. I try to step back and breathe, even when unwelcome feelings threaten to overwhelm me. I try. I really do. But then I remember Reb Zalman always said, stop trying. You're trying too much. Just do it. Well, I owe a lot to my teacher, Reb Zalman. He taught me how to embrace becoming an elder. Reb Zalman taught me about the sine qua non of aging. So you might ask, well, what's the sine qua non? Well, the sine qua non is something that is essential or indispensable. For example, if I asked you, what is the sine qua non for life? You might say, well, air, water, love. Yeah, I'd agree, all of them. But Reb Zalman wrote in his book, Going from Aging to Saging, which I really highly recommend for anyone to read, that becoming a sage, it's necessary to know the essential and indispensable things that one must search for, seek, and do. Now, I want to just ask you, if what would you say that you like to be called? Would you like to be called elderly or an elder? Let's show a raise of hands. How many would like to be called elderly? Ah. How many would like to be called an elder? Ah, yes. Well, in the next few minutes, we're going to go through some slides. And as we do, take a look at the sine qua non that Reb Zalman recommends and see which one or ones might be most important in your life right now. So we become a sage as we age. We don't automatically become sages, though. It's not like we entered the 70th decade and now we're a sage. We have to work at it. People who desire to become sages are those who go through a conscious process of deliberate growth. They learn to guide their family and their community with their hard-earned wisdom. Next slide. Like I said, sine qua non means something that's absolutely essential and indispensable. And here are some highlights of Reb Zalman's teachings.
To take hold of the willingness to deal with life completion and overcome the desire to stay in denial of aging. We must.
Pay attention to your body, feelings, mind, and spirit. You know, we do have the four worlds within us. Be guided by them and maintain the right attitude, tone, and mood.
We must also begin to do life repair. And this means looking at our relationships, the ones in every generation, reaching into the past, looking into the future, and trying to see how we can heal. It also means taking charge of the practical matters of our life. Living wills, ethical wills, last wills, and testaments. And if you have any confusion about what those things are, come talk to me after the class.
And this may be the most challenging sine qua non of all, to forgive, to find an inner release from vindictiveness and anger, and then to recognize the lessons that we've learned from difficult life situations and harsh teachers.
We need to begin to raise questions about the purpose and meaning of our lives and answer these kinds of questions. Who am I? When you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do I fit in? And if I do, where is it that I'm fitting in? And the question that's always so important for me, what do I have to offer to somebody else? What can I do to make the world a little better?
To serve as an elder to others by being a guide, a mentor, a mediator, a promoter of peace in the family, community, and the nation. If we have children who are adult children, grandchildren who are coming of age, nieces and nephews, or if we have those people who are younger than us in our community and our nation, we need to be willing to serve as a guide and a mediator and a promoter of peace. We need to become a wisdom keeper.
And of course, we have to come to terms with our own mortality.
Ah, a difficult task to prepare for a serene death, to prepare a legacy for our children and grandchildren, nieces and nephews, to allow them to see the Torah of our lives as we live it out in front of them.
To acquire skills for working on the inside by learning various things like journal work, meditation, imaginal exercises, spiritual intimacy, to really give yourself to hearing your inner voices and allowing the smaller ones within to be heard, as well as the ones that are making lots and lots of noises. And I think most importantly, learning to do the forgiveness work, releasing our feelings of anger and vindictiveness. And that's really what forgiveness means. It doesn't have anything to do with letting somebody else off the hook. It just has to do with letting go of energy that you no longer want, so that you can find pearls in your memories.
The best way to do this work is together. Maybe we can make a buddy system with our friends, one friend individually, or a spouse, or a group of 2 or 3 trusted best people in our lives, and commit to daily prayers, meditations, poems, saging exercises, which you will find in Reb Zalman's book, From Aging to Saging, and spiritual exercises that we find here at MOSH, as well as journaling about questions that we have that arise every day. Next.
I think we did that already also. Aging is the extraordinary process of becoming the person you always should have been and probably already are. So we're going to skip that one for right now also, Reb Mark. Thank you. So it's time for me to tell you a little more about my journey. I am about to turn 80. I don't know how that happened, but it did. It is. And turn seems to be the operative word because I find myself looking back often. I tend to start with accomplishments. I was the first woman salesperson and later manager in several pharmaceutical and medical companies. I pulled women through after I broke the ceiling, and mentoring seems to be a thread to all I've done right up to and including today. I helped many people on the path to becoming Jewish leaders and stood with hundreds of people as a chaplain, sometimes in their very darkest days. Occasionally, I may focus on a disappointment or even a regret, but these thoughts are few and far between. I've worked hard to accept myself just as I am, and I think I've been pretty successful. At the same time, I don't feel done. In fact, I have great hopes that I'm about to embark on a whole new chapter, returning to a circle of friends where I lived for so many years, a community which I believe will be nourishing and joyful. I remember Reb Zalman talking about the contracts that we make with the divine. This is by no means a direct quote, but I remember him saying, if you think you have a contract that you don't particularly like, make a new one. Both of my parents died in their early 80s. I don't know what kind of a contract I might have made, but I am consciously asking to live much longer than they did, and to live those years in good health and with a brain that continues to work. I continue to believe that I have much more to do in the world, and that's why this new path is opened in front of me. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to helping more people to tell their stories of their life and continuing to help people move closer to the divine and loving whatever else may be on my path. So I need to stop for a moment and reflect on the clarity with which Eliana spoke about her fears. And I would admit that, having found out today that I do need to have another surgery in the very near future, I am afraid of that surgery. I don't seem to be afraid of dying, for which I'm very grateful. I've had a near-death experience, and I've had lots of people do what I think is reaching out beyond the grave to tell me that where they are is a great place. So I'm turning 80, and I'm turning around to look forward. And now, before we go to some more questions, I'd like to share with you something that I asked my friend Ann Hendel to do. She is turning 89 very soon, and I asked her to comment on the difference between turning 70, 80, or 90. She says, when I turned 70, it was a non-event. Life proceeded much as it had before, with my volunteering overseas, starting a nonprofit loan program to serve refugees here at home, and fulfilling an 8-month contract managing an independent living facility. Even a diagnosis of stage 1 cancer followed by radiation at age 71, and stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma followed by radiation, by immunotherapy 5 years later, didn't change my lifestyle. I was active, productive, and intellectually curious. When I turned 80 in 2015, although it didn't happen on day 1 or even that year, I started slowing down. And when COVID-19 arrived a few years later and life contracted for all of us, I was ready to retreat, ready to retreat to my home with a good book, forego the downtown museums, theaters, movies, concerts, and direct contacts with friends and family. Aches in places I didn't know I had appeared. My irritable bowel came worse, and even standing still at the kitchen counter to prepare food became a source of aches in my back and my hips. I am now approaching the last year of my 80s. As I turn 89 in 2 months, the IBS is worse, the back and hips are weaker, the cancer's blissfully quiet, and my interest in the outside world diminishing daily, except with respect to my family. I can spend time idly and alone or engaged in activity with a friend, but the balance has shifted over time to more aloneness and more idleness. What the 90s might look like, if I reach them, I can only imagine. But it's sure and certain they won't in any way resemble the energy, productivity, good health, and forward thinking of those past years. I'm grateful for FaceTime and messaging, which connects me to my children, grandchildren, and great-grands, and for the life I've lived. But it's hard to get excited about what lies ahead for me personally. So I think what I gather from all of this is that there's a lot of differences in the years between 70, 80, the years between 80 and 90, and if we're really blessed, the years that come after 90. So I think Eliana and I would like to ask what's going on for all of you. If you have a comment, a question, something you'd like to share, well, it looks like maybe you could raise your hand. Did you raise yours? Are you raising your hand, Gail, or did you just unmute?
No, sorry.
That's okay. Do you have something you'd like to say, or do you just want me to mute you again?
No, you can go ahead. I'm just listening.
Great. Somebody who'd like to have something to say. There we go. Shosh and Mosh. Come in, please.
Coming in. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Thank you, Eliana and Shulamit for orchestrating this. It's beautiful. Even Michael and I in our own little room hadn't quite shared those particular topics most recently with each other. I would just highly recommend to everybody to do what we each did in this past year, which was to have a Simchat Chochmah. This is a non-paid political announcement, but we had a wonderful time. I did it here on our back deck in the fall, a few months after reaching my 70th birthday, which I had the honor, and it's going to sound heavy, to experience at Auschwitz. We were on a tour of Europe, and I happened to be at Auschwitz on my. It was profound, as you can imagine. I did yearn for a bit more lighthearted celebration, and we decided instead of a party, we would have a Simchat Chochmah, which the children, everybody participated. Many of you even here were part of it in different ways. And people shared, anybody who was 70 or older shared their wisdom with me on a little piece of compostable paper, which we planted under a tree that Moshe bought for me and planted that week. And anyone under 70, like the kids, shared some wisdom they had gleaned from Bubby or Mom over the years. And it was gorgeous. And it's all planted in our garden back here. And I have a copy of it, of course. So that was beautiful with blessings. I have rabbi friends as well, and got clergy friends, and our daughter's a cantor. So it was fabulous. Moshe, as many of you may know, celebrated his Simchat Chochmah a few weeks ago at the end of the March month, Oneg Shabbat, which we sponsored and made a contribution to the caring committee. It's another unpaid political announcement. So it's a wonderful thing to celebrate the wisdom of the years, as Reb Zalman called it, and was so right. And I highly recommend rituals as a way of celebrating, and this one in particular. If anyone wants to know more or orchestrate one, contact me, contact Reb Mark. It's a great thing to do.
Thank you very much. And as Reb Mark put in the chat, a Simcha Chochmah is a celebration of the age of wisdom, and it's generally done where people come and as Shosh said, bring their wisdom with them and share it with the group and honor the person who has reached an age of wisdom. Someone else with a question or a comment? Oh, Moshe, go for it. Now you have to unmute first, though.
Who?
I insist that you unmute.
Somebody muted us. I wonder.
I would add, having just gotten out of the hospital for a neck infection, there also is a context in which we state these hopes and fears, that when you really feel sick, you want to feel at least a little better before you contemplate these mid to long range things. Nothing's changed, but it's a little bit more of a burden, as well as gratitude that I'm here to complain about it.
There you go. Thank you. How about some of those people who I couldn't fit in the beginning, who had their hands raised? Do you still have a comment you'd like to make? Anybody?
I believe Rachel had her hand up.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, I think that I'm the oldest of everybody there. I am 82 years old. I think that I'm older than anybody there, right? But I do what 40 and 30 and 50 and 60 will not do. I do everything. I walk every day. I clean my house. I do the cooking. I have friends. I go out. I don't look at myself as an 82 years old. I just don't. And the reason probably is because I'm the youngest of 7 children, and they all gone, and they all did not live very long. And I don't know why I am living longer than they all did, but I think that I'm just very active all the time, and I don't just say. I mean, sitting with the moss for 2 hours is the longest I can sit. I get up, I come down. We got a dog, we got a puppy, and so I think my my thing is that to keep going, just keep doing things, not to sit and say my back hurt. Of course my back hurt. I'm 82 years old. Of course my back hurt. But I don't pay attention to it until I will have to pay attention to it. But just keep going, keep doing.
Thank you. That's great advice. Thank you for your very lovely wisdom.
Am I the oldest there?
I don't know. Is anybody older than 82? If you are, unmute and tell us. I think you're the oldest. Yay for you.
Okay.
Fred Mark, would you like to help us draw this all to a conclusion?
Sure, unless anybody has been reticent and is like having their hand. Hey, okay, D. Herman, I've never known you
There
to be
you-
reticent,
come
but your
on.
hand just popped up.
Hello.
She didn't want to listen to me close it out. Go
No,
ahead,
not
Dee.
yet. Well, anyway, I just wanted to say that, last fall when I was having a lot of downtime, because I was caring for Jan, my husband, who had back issues majorly, I sat down one day and I started to write my story, actually stories of my life. And I think like Rachel, I have a lot of activity in my body. I'm always got spilkus, so I have to keep moving all the time. But having had to be more homebound, when I sat my tushy down and started writing, it all started to flow. And I felt that I was doing it as legacy work for my son and my daughter-in-law and my niece and my nephew, just like you were saying, Shulamit. And it feels very gratifying to put it down in some form that I can pass on. It's not just the oral tradition. And I feel for myself that I missed out on getting some of those kinds of stories from my ancestors. And I don't want to leave that gap, because I received a teaching from a Native American medicine woman many years ago who was talking about the Native belief, which is same as ours. And they talk about the 7 generations. And we talk about the 3 to 4 generations that the sins of the fathers are passed on to the children for 7 generations. And we say in our book of Exodus that the sins of the fathers are passed on to the children for 3 to 4 generations. And what she said about that as a way of teaching that I hadn't heard before, she said, we, like baby boomers, are the 7th generation. If she looked back 7 generations, she said that's when the white Europeans came and decimated the native peoples in this land. And she said, it's the next generation, the 8th generation, that's the generation of the healers. And it's upon us, it's Aleinu, for us to be holding and supporting the next generation so that they can do the heavy lifting, the healing work that has to be done for us to continue to move forward and grow as living beings. So I took that very seriously, and I feel that that's one of my life's jobs, DeBarthy.
Shamati. Dan Glazer.
So I just wanted to add what comes up for me, which is It is inspiring, and I also think that it's part of what you're referring to in terms of saging, that it sounds like everybody here is looking to the future and not, I take it that when you start feeling elderly or getting elderly, you kind of stop doing more, you look back, you start living in the past, things like that. But if you're planning on saging or just like Raquel was saying, keep going, you're looking to the future, regardless of what age you are. Whether you're 60, 70, or 80, it is so inspiring to see everybody looking to the future. What more can I do? What do I still want to do? Who do I still want to work with? Who do I, what do I still want to write and build? It is so impressive. And I think that's a big part of what we're talking about too. It's just very impressive and very inspiring.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. And I think that what you're saying is absolutely true, and that we need to look at what we've already done to build upon that in order to move into the future. So some looking back is cool, and then let's just get busy moving forward. Yep. Anybody else? Mark's ready to sing, I can tell.
Well, first, Joe. I see Joe's finger, fickle finger of fate going up. Actually, it might have been his pencil.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, this was very inspiring. And Wednesday is the half day a week that I work in the health department. And I was reminded today by a patient that a 35-year-old woman with cerebral palsy who it was mild, but you can imagine living with that half of your body weak your whole life for 35 years with 4 kids, on Medicaid, no money, no support. Her husband left her. And it reminded me, and I was able, hopefully, to help this lady and get some doctors in town to see her. And it reminded me of the importance of us being grateful for what we do have. Even though my hip is hurting and my toes hurt all the time, you know what? It's pretty mild compared to what some people put up with. And we're reminded of this with what's happening in Israel and what's happening in Gaza. It's just, we're blessed. And I think that we're being able to recognize that and move forward in the future. Dan, I love what you said about, looking forward, just not looking back, but looking at what we can do. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Judy, make it quick.
Okay. So Sunday was the 3-year anniversary of the resuscitation of the guy who had the cardiac arrest when I was on a date with him. And he's doing very well, and we're having dinner tomorrow. But he had CPR done to him for about 3 or 4 minutes before they shocked him and he came back to life. And he told me afterwards that, he had pain on breathing for weeks after that from the CPR. And what he told me was, every time I feel that pain when I breathe, it reminds me that I'm alive, for which he's most grateful. So not that I don't want to have pain. I don't want any of you to have pain, but it is a reminder that we are alive.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Beautiful.
Well, I knew there's a reason why you would have the last word.
Yes, and we're
Beautiful.
grateful.
And we are grateful to you, Shulamit and Eliana, for a rich and inspiring evening.
Yay.
I would be remiss if I didn't invite the Tasmans and Gail to come join us on Shabbat morning sometimes, or any other of our gatherings, because they're all as deeply joyous and Torah-filled as this session has been tonight. I'm reminded of a teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov teaches that each and every one of us only have a certain amount of words to speak in this lifetime, and a certain amount of breaths to take. So who knows? I was talking about this very thing with Rabbi Moshe Prager last week, and talking to her about my thoughts on what retirement would look like for me. And Dee, I am never using that word again. I'm going to be using the term rewirement, because that works for me. Thank you. And the one thing that that came up in our conversation was that, you know, she's my teacher, and Reb Zalman of blessed memory is Reb Marsha's teacher. And we go all the way back to the Baal Shem Tov in our lineage here, right leading up to this beloved and sacred community. And so she talked about paying it forward. And I think that that, in the end, is my deepest hope, to pay things forward. And my blessing for all of us is that we all have the vigor and the wisdom to do that, to pay things forward in such a way that when we are gone, we will live forever. Limnot Yameinu, Limnot Yameinu, Limnot Yameinu Kein Hoda V'navi Levav Chochma, Limnot Yameinu Kein Hoda V'navi Levav Chochma. Teach us to treasure. Sing it with me. Teach us to treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Oh, teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Oh, teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Oh, teach us to treasure each day. One more time with me. Treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Oh, teach us to treasure each day.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Be well. Be blessed. Take care.
Lila Tov.
Lila Tov.